Let's begin then. We are joined here by the Consul General of Pakistan, Mr. Abdul Hamid. He joined the Pakistan Consulate General in Toronto as Consul General just before the COVID hit in January of 2020. So we have been limited in the face-to-face opportunities, but he has nonetheless made himself available. And we had a good meeting earlier this summer and are looking forward to his presentation and that of Azhar Hussain, who has joined us as well. He serves as the Trade and Investment Counselor for the Consulate General in Toronto, and he joined in July of 2020. Mr. Hamid has a distinguished career. Served as a minister in the Pakistan High Commission in New Delhi. He also was worked at the permanent mission of Pakistan at the United Nations in New York for 5 years. During that period, he also represented his country on the Security Council during Pakistan's tenure as a non-permanent member of the Council in 2012 to 2013. He attended several sessions of the General Assembly, Security Council, Non-Aligned Movement, and specialized committees of the Security Council. Previously, he worked in the Pakistan Embassy in Moscow. So thank you for joining us in Brampton. Thank you for joining us here today after very impressive posts in Moscow and New York and New Delhi. We also have, as part of our delegation from Pakistan today, Mr. Azhar Hussain, and he has 20 years of experience in Pakistan customs and policy. He has also been instrumental in bringing improvements in international trade regulations at the federal level, and he achieved an award and certificate of excellence in 2014 for trade procedures and best practices in Pakistan. So, Mr. Hussain and Consul General Hamid, thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to learning more about opportunities in Pakistan.
Thank you very much for nice words, Mr. Toilet. It is really a privilege to be part of today's meeting, and good morning to everybody, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Badr Shamim, all the Jennifer Oldham, and all ladies and gentlemen. Coming directly to the subject, because we have short time, Canada-Pakistan trade is currently over $1 billion, with the balance of trade in favor of Canada. Canada's main exports to Pakistan are food items originating from Western Canada. The details of the bilateral trade will be shared in the presentation to be made by our commercial counselor, Mr. Azhar Hussain. Pakistan is a large market of around 220 million people. Let me share some key statistics about Pakistan and its economy. It's fourth largest milk producer in the world, eighth largest producer of wheat, fifth largest producer of cotton, sixth largest producer of dates, mandarin, and mangoes, fifth largest producer of sugarcane. It's already home to many multinational companies in different sectors like automobiles, telecommunications, information technology, oil and gas, and energy sector. Pharmaceutical, financial services, media, food services. In these sectors also, multinational companies are there. A number of Canadian companies are also working in Pakistan, like JCM Power, Constellation Software. There has been a big investment of billions of dollars in recent years in improvement of infrastructure like seaport, highways, power plants, industrial zones, creating opportunities for domestic and foreign investors. Gwadar Deep Seaport, for example, and its free zone are strategically located near the Persian Gulf and connect South Asia to Middle East, Africa, and Europe. The fully operational port is estimated to produce $10 billion in annual income activity in the coming years. Gwadar Free Port Zone also offers incentives such as 23 years tax holiday, exemption from import duties on materials and equipment, and 100% ownership for investors. Apart from Gwadar Free Zone, Pakistan has established special economic zones in different cities where incentives have been offered by both federal and provincial government in Pakistan, such as the incentive, for example, include 100% foreign ownership is allowed, full repatriation of profits, leasing of land without limitation. In addition, giant ventures can be made in sectors such as alternate power, automobile, especially electric vehicles, telecommunications, housing and construction, tourism, especially winter tourism. Alongside the financial incentive, Pakistan has also made major reforms for improvement in the overall business environment, which have led to improvement in Pakistan's global ranking in World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index. In fact, during last 2 years, almost 39 places Pakistan has come down in terms of improvement of ease of doing business. Come down means its ease of doing business has improved. In 2018, we were at number 147, but in 2020 report, we are at 108. Pakistan's information technology sector is $3 billion plus industry with annual export of 2.5 billion. The IT services being offered include business processing, outsourcing, mobile application granting and gaming and animation, artificial intelligence, blockchain, and data sciences. The international companies which already have presence in Pakistan include Cisco, IBM, Oracle, Ericsson, Toshiba, and others. A few words, because Brother Shamim is here, about financial markets. Some key features of Pakistan's stock market include the price to earning ratio of 9.5 of the benchmark Karachi Stock Exchange 100 Index is one of the most attractively valued in emerging market indices. Similarly, the profit yield at 4.48 is among the highest in the emerging markets. In addition, the conventional exchange traded funds, Pakistan Stock Exchange also offers some Sharia compliant ETF. With this introduction, I hand over the floor to Mr. Azhar Hussain, our commercial counselor, to present the details of the trade and investment opportunities and the incentives being offered by the government of Pakistan. I have been very economical. I have missed a lot. I hope that Azhar Hussain will fill in the gaps. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Todd, for your nice words for me. And Jennifer, can I share my screen? Because right now it's saying that host has disabled the participant screen. Can you please allow me to share my screen? Hello.
Sorry, I'm just figuring it out. Hold on, here we go. Okay, go ahead. You should be seeing it. You should see it now. There you go.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jennifer. Just to start with the trade, the key figures have already been shared by Mr. Hamid. Just a few more regarding the $60 billion plus infrastructure projects already launched in the last 5 years. Gwadar, already mentioned by Mr. Hamid, that it's the world's largest deep sea port. And Pakistan, regarding the tourism, Pakistan is home to about 8 out of the 20 highest mountains in the world. Moving forward, these are the Pakistan's trade partners. As far as exports are concerned, our main exports, the biggest market for exports of Pakistan is USA, China, then UK, Afghanistan. And for imports, we have the biggest imports from China, followed by UAE and KSA. And you know, UAE and KSA basically we import oil, and from Indonesia, palm oil is imported. But for industrial raw material, because China is Pakistan's neighbor, and we have a free trade agreement with China, so most of the imports are from China, as it is the case with Canada, because Canada also has a free trade agreement with USA and Mexico, so major imports and exports are to the free trade partners. Now looking at what is the trade between Canada and Pakistan. So if you can see that in the last column, I shared that the share of exports and imports in each other country is not that high. Canada's exports to Pakistan constitute only 0.13% of Pakistan's total imports, whereas if we see at Pakistan's exports to Canada is 0.08% of Canada's import. So there is plenty of room where we can enhance these exports. and imports of both sides. Now, what are Pakistan's major exports? What Pakistan exports to the world? Pakistan is an agri-based economy, and the textile has a big share in Pakistan's export. Around 60% of Pakistan's exports are based on textiles. So the main products are knitwear, bedwear, and then we also have food exports. Then we have leather and footwear we exported, and then as Badr mentioned, surgical and medical products are also exported, around $500 million. Then we have sports goods. The key item in the sports goods is this Pakistan's football, which is used in World Cups around the world. So and Pakistan industry has all the certifications, and that's make its products attractive for the world. What Pakistan imports? Obviously, it's the petroleum is the need of the industry, then machinery, especially the power generation machinery in the last 3-4 years. Then we have agriculture and chemicals, palm oil, metals, and transport, in which the CKD cars are around $1 billion. Looking at the Pakistan exports to Canada, is aligned with the overall Pakistan's export pattern, which is based on textiles and leather and food items. But looking at the Canada's exports to Pakistan, this is a different story. Canada's exports to Pakistan are from, as I mentioned, is from the western side and is more inclined towards the food sector, seeds, lentils. So the eastern side is not much linked with Pakistan's economy, and there are not many exports from the eastern Canada side to Pakistan. So that's why we are trying to link up and connect with the eastern boards, so we can explore this. As mentioned by Mr. Hamid, we have a large presence of multinationals in Pakistan. Big companies are there. May it be restaurant, it be oil and gas, it could be automobiles, it could be telecommunication, banks, financial institutions. We have many presence there also. Our medical and what Pakistan. See, in Pakistan, multinationals have witnessed a high growth as compared to their overall worldwide growth. So Pakistan is a huge market, and there are huge margins available for the multinationals. Now coming to the investment side, why to invest in Pakistan? These are the key points, and I will explain briefly each and every point, like the strat location, the population, the investment policy, the market access. As mentioned, that Pakistan has focused on improving its overall business environment. Starting from 148 in the Doing Business Index of World Bank, now we have reached to 108. So there is big reforms going on in Pakistan to attract the foreign investment and to facilitate their operations. Under this Doing Business, the major reform has been to opening the business. So we have eliminated many procedures and steps, and business can be opened within a few days. As far as the market access for Pakistani products are concerned, Pakistan has concluded phase 2 of China-Pakistan Free Trade Agreement, with 90% trade. Exports of Pakistan and China are at 0%. So the full China market is accessible to Pakistan. Then we also have free trade agreements with Malaysia, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, SAFTA. Pakistan enjoys EU GSP Plus schemes, so 66% tariff lines are covered under the EU GSP, and 90% Pakistan export are under the GSP Plus scheme. Also, Pakistan has the UK GSP Plus with 90% tariff lines at 0 duty. And Pakistan is also negotiating free trade agreements with Thailand, Turkey. Now about the investment incentives. As mentioned by Mr. Hamid, Pakistan allows 100% foreign ownership, and there is no minimum requirement for any foreign equity. It could be anything. No upper limit on the share of foreign equity. Investors are free to repatriate any amount of profits they earn, and no restrictions on the currency conversion. Then, as I mentioned, that the business processes have been streamlined. So there's online registration procedure, then opening of branch unallowed, 7-week duration for the application processing, and entitlement to sell shares, transfer ownership, and deregister. Domestic borrowing is also allowed for foreign investors. Coming to infrastructure, Pakistan has established special economic zones and the foreign companies are allowed land lease without limitations. There is no limit on transfer of land and no restriction on foreign real estate development. Again, some key features of special economic zones and export processing zones. There is income tax holiday for developers. There is duty exemption on import of plant and machinery. All utilities are insured by law. There is single window for the investors. They can enter into private sector directly, or they can have public-private partnership as well. Again, almost the same goes for export processing zones. There are no exchange control regulations in the export processing zones for foreign investors, and there is no VAT also. And the in export processing zone, the investors can sell to the domestic market as well, about 20% of total production. Pakistan is the fastest growing retail market, and disposable incomes have doubled since 2010, with 40% on food. That's more than the regional countries. Coming to the specific sectors where we investors can have potential, there is reduced rate of customs duty on import of capital goods and ingredients for preparation. There is exemption of income tax for food processing and beverages. Pakistan, as mentioned, is the second largest. The food industry is the second largest in Pakistan. Coming to the dairy and livestock, Pakistan has the third largest livestock population, fifth largest producer of milk. There's growing meat demand, and in Pakistan, unfortunately, only 5 to 7% milk is processed, and there is annual growth of 20% in dairy milk. So plenty of demand, plenty of potential. Pakistan presently is net importer of dairy products, so the market is open. Apart from dairy, we have a big demand for halal meat. In Canada also, we have a big halal meat industry, and so is for Pakistan. The investors can serve the Pakistani market as well as export to the big Gulf and Central Asia and African markets. Also, Pakistan has given tax incentives for corporate farming, meat processing, breed improvement, husbandry, veterinary medicines. Regarding the logistics, again, these are the areas where investment can be made. Pakistan, as you know, is a part of the Belt and Road Initiative by China, and these are all commercial projects. Big demand for these commercial projects in Pakistan. Again, coming to the housing sector, Pakistan, as mentioned, is the fifth most populous country with 20 million population and strong labor force. There is growing demand for houses. It is 2.4% annual population growth, and presently there is around 10 million shortfall in Pakistan. So construction sector is also a very booming sector in Pakistan. The sector has been granted status of industry. There's 6 tax for builders and developers. There on the right side, you can see the investment, the incentives, the fixed tax abatement, exemption from capital gain tax, exemption of withholding tax, reduce in advance tax. So Pakistan construction sector is also very attractive for industries. Coming to energy, these are the incentives as mentioned by Mr. Hamid. There is a Canadian company already working in the wind power, and they are also interested in the energy distribution mechanism system. So coming to as I mentioned, there are many incentives for wind power also. The guaranteed electricity purchased by government of Pakistan. Grid provision will be the responsibility of the government and not of the supplier. There is protection against political risks, attractive tariffs, euro-dollar parity allowed, carbon credits are available, no import duties on equipment, exemption on income tax, withholding tax, and sales tax, and repatriation of equity along with dividends freely allowed. Coming to the mineral section, mining. This is a map of the biggest province of Pakistan, which is called Balochistan, and where you can see the metals and other minerals available all along the Balochistan. Just to give an idea of the potential of minerals which in this province is iron ore, onyx, sulfur, lead, coal, gold, copper. There's plenty of this for the investors to explore and invest. These are some of the projects where the Pakistan government is inviting public-private partnership. These include hydropower, construction, mining, agriculture, energy, railway, technology, tourism. So these can be shared if anybody is interested in any of the sectors. Now coming to the deep sea port, which Pakistan has developed in the last few years, which is Gwadar. As you can see, the Gwadar has a very strategic location. It's at the mouth of the Hormuz Strait and the Persian Gulf, which is the channel for around 1/3 or 40% of the world's oil. So it's a very strategically located port, and this can be a regional hub for the transit and transshipment trade, and it connects South Asia with Central Asia, Middle East, Africa, and Europe. And it is touted to be the game changer for the region, hopefully. These projects can be developed on the Gwadar port, petroleum, petrochemical terminal, LNG terminal, refineries, iron ore terminals, liquid chemical and edible terminals, dry bulk terminals. So see, these are the possible projects which can be established at the Gwadar port. Then we have Gwadar Free Zone also besides the Gwadar port. Phase 1 is completed, and the market is open for investment in the phase 2 of the project. So it can be warehouses, it can be industries, it can be leisure, it can be medical devices park, it can be automobile sector. There can be many sectors which can be established, many industries which can be established here. And this about the connectivity of the port with the main highway of the country. So the whole market is now open of the Pakistan as well as to the north of Pakistan, to China and Central Asia. Again, the incentives: 23 years complete tax holiday from all government taxes, 99 years lease, 100% exemption of duties, 1 window facility, foreign ownership allowed, and infrastructure is already there. Now, just touching upon one or two more industries, and not take more than 2-3 minutes, hopefully. The IT industry of Pakistan is also booming, and you can see it's a $3 billion plus industry, 7,000 plus technology companies. Pakistan is ranked 9th in the globe for booming digital economies. These are the services which are being offered from Pakistan. The BPO, gaming, animation, AI, blockchain, then embedded system design. These are the companies which are already there working in the IT sector. As mentioned, Cisco, SAP, everybody already there. These are the international clients which are sourcing from Pakistan. You can see it's many big companies of the world. They're already sourcing from Pakistan. You can a snapshot of the investment in Pakistan. So you can see there is big jump in the current year with around 100% jump from last year in the IT sector. Another achievement, another big step taken by Pakistani government is that we have established special technology zones, and we are planning to establish 60 plus SPZs across the country over the next 5 to 10 years, another potential sector for investment, and joint ventures between Canadian and Pakistani companies. And now coming to the interesting sector for Mr. Badr. Pakistan Stock Exchange is, as per Bloomberg, Pakistan emerges as Asia's best performing stock market. This is the snapshot of the market. Market capitalization stands at around $51 billion, and with 540 listed companies and 217 Islamic Sharia compliant listed companies also for those of the Pakistani diaspora who is here and interested in Islamic products. This is sector-wise market capitalization, oil and gas, banks, tobacco, fertilizer, automobile, pharmaceuticals, power generation. All these constitute big sectors. Now, looking at the performance of Pakistan Stock Exchange, if you see the 10-year annual return, the upper curve is for the Karachi Stock Exchange, which is giving 7.25% as compared to the average rate of all of the regional emerging markets, which is 2.78%. And mind you, this is not in rupee terms, it is in dollar terms. The Pakistan's price to earning ratio is among the lowest, it's 9.5, only higher than Turkey. Then again, it's lower than everybody else in the market. And the dividend yield is also among the highest if compared with regional markets. And now, what could be done in the follow up with this? We can have great delegations between Pakistan and Canada. We can have sector specific B2B networking events. We can have road shows for different sectors for investors. B2B interaction between Pakistan IT companies and the two countries. And if anybody has any queries, they can be contacted. I think that's my time is up.
That's great. Well, thank you, Mr. Hussein. That was a very comprehensive and informative presentation as well. I learned lots about opportunities, perhaps in housing for Brampton and Canadian companies, mining, obviously. And let's open it up for questions now. We have one question posed in the chat, and Tracy Pepe, as I mentioned, has a very interesting global company, and I see that Mr. Hamid has responded. Her question is about airports in Pakistan. She has airports as clients. I understand there are 21 international airports. What are the top three would be, I think, one of the questions. The hotels as well. And Tracy, you might be able to elaborate on your preferred clients, be it boutique or multinational. And then the third question, again, tourism related. You in your presentation, you had a note about the province of Sindh and tourism as an opportunity there. So perhaps you could elaborate on those three questions.
Before you go ahead, Todd, can I just ask specifically? I did see the answer regarding the airport. What I'm looking for is passenger, not necessarily the cargo or the airstrips relating to various different markets. And the other thing I am interested in is the hospitality industry usually has a percentage of boutique hotels that may be private owners, non-chain driven, which is my specialty, versus organizations like Intercontinental or Hyatt Place or the big larger brands that populate more franchise approach. So what I'm trying to understand is the diversification within your country on how the tourism sector is developed.
Regarding the airports, I think I don't see what's mentioned. Karachi is the biggest airport, and Karachi is also the commercial center of Pakistan, and it is the biggest one in terms of both cargo as well as passenger, and followed by Lahore. Lahore is the provincial capital of the biggest province of Punjab, and it's again in terms of passengers. And the third is the Islamabad, or I'm not sure whether it could be Faisalabad. Faisalabad is also the commercial center of Pakistan, and it's sort of but the top two are just Karachi and Lahore. And
are they privately held or are they government held airports?
But in Pakistan, there is only one airport which is privately held, and it is in Sialkot. Otherwise, all airports are government owned, government held.
Okay, thank you.
And regarding the hotels, Pakistan does have this international chains like Sheraton, Marriott is there, but the market is not, you cannot say is dominated by them. There are plenty of other hotels which are domestic and which offer unique proposition to the customers. So there's possibility of probability potential for private chains as well. And what is your third question? Tourism. What specifically would like to know about tourism? Because tourism is certainly a booming sector for Pakistan, and we are focusing right now. We are focusing on the north, because basically the northern areas of Pakistan are the areas where it's all hilly and it's weather is excellent. So, and there is also winter tourism in Chitral side of Pakistan, which is again in the north. So, what specific information would you like to have about tourism?
I noticed in your presentation when you were listing the specialties of various provinces that you mentioned tourism and Sindh, the province of Sindh. And I think Mr. Hamid has described it very well in terms of being a cradle of civilizations. Is there, which is the nearest airport, and would there be boutique hotels in that province? Is there any incentives from government for investments in tourism there?
Sindh is basically, Pakistan has 5 provinces. The south is Sindh, and Karachi is the capital of Sindh. So you can call the Sindh is the coast. Karachi has the only seaports. No, not the only one, but right now we already also have Gawada seaport. So previously Karachi had the only seaports in Pakistan. It's a commercial center. It has a coastline. It has offered its tourism for investment, and I will see a document on tourism, and will share with you.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Mr. Hussain. Are there other questions for Hamid, for Consul General Hamid or Mr. Hussain?
Actually, if sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, virtual phone syndrome, right? We all talk at the same time. It's Heather Stratty. I just wanted to talk further on tourism. Looking at safety, any risks that tourists, that would factor in certainly to business, but for tourists as well. I think it's worthwhile just chatting about the safety factor of the country, because I do think there's a lot of misrepresentation of just how safe it really is. And I mean that to the point that it's more safe than people think. So I thought I'd raise that question for consideration.
Sir, would you like to answer to this?
In fact, if we see latest reports on the crime rate in Pakistan, during last 3 years, it has decreased to a large extent. Though it's somehow unfortunate that during last 2 years, we are facing COVID. Now, the improvement in law and order situation and improvement in our infrastructure for tourism has not translated yet into attraction of foreign tourists because of COVID-19. We are hoping that once COVID is over, our efforts to improve that infrastructure of tourism and improve law and order situation in the country will be translated into numbers, and that is true. In fact, there has been a Canadian visitor who traveled on bicycle or motorcycle throughout the country, and it has been part of YouTube. Of course, there have been certain European tourists also, and its situation has improved. And of course, Canadian High Commissioner is one of the most frequent visitors of Pakistan's scenic northern areas, because it's northern areas, Pakistan's northern areas, winter has some resemblance with Canadian winter also. So they have ice skating and those kind of things. And
can I ask something else as well, sir? The tourism industry in particular, that's a sector that I follow quite closely. With the recovery of COVID, it's anywhere between 3 to 5 years, depending on areas, sectors, to be back to pre-pandemic numbers in reality. Do you know within your country where or what the strategy is? There particular investments that are coming in from government to either accelerate that, or is it strategically placed on the actual providers or tourism area? That's what I'm really interested in, because different sectors are handling tourism differently because of COVID, the 4th variant, and I'm understanding that. But from a forecasting perspective, I'm trying to understand how your government is addressing this in particular.
No, there's a lot of focus at this moment, particularly after improvement in the law and order situation to improve the road networks and small hotels close to scenic places. That that was one infrastructural issues we were facing. Second, Pakistan is one of the places where oldest civilizations flourished: Buddhist, Hindu, Sikh, and people don't know about it. Some of people identify Pakistan only with Islamic civilization, which is perhaps the latest one in that land. Our experts claim that almost 90% of sacred places of Sikh religion are in Pakistan. And same is the case with Buddhist. Taxla is one of the first university in the world. And it was established during Buddhist period in the subcontinent. And there's a lot of work on this cultural tourism, or you call heritage tourism or religious tourism, whatever term we want to give it. But recently we established what is called Kartarpur Corridor. It was also a tourism centric initiative that the founder of Sikh religion was brought up in that place, and there's some sacred sentiments which are attached with that place, and our Prime Minister inaugurated it. Many people from Brampton also joined.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Mr. Consul General Hamid and Mr. Hussein for your presentation. I have a vision, Consul General Hamid, of Badr and Heather on a motorcycle going through the mountains in Pakistan. Visiting one of the hotels that Tracy is going to bring on as a client sometime soon. So thank you very much. Your contact information is on your last slide there, and it would be wonderful. Jen, I don't know if you have the deck, if you can put the contact information for Mr. Hamid and Mr. Hussein, and please continue to join us for the remainder of our morning here. We are now going to hear from Ben Gaylor. Ben is the Canadian Trade Commissioner for the UAE, for Qatar, and for Kuwait. So we all know that Qatar is hosting FIFA 2022. I hope they're going to use Pakistan Brazuca or Telstar 18 soccer balls. I see that it's planned for 2026, which is great, but we want to learn more about UAE, the World Expo, and of course the FIFA Championships World Cup next year as well. So Mr. Gaylor, thank you so much for joining us here today. You have had a broad and very influential career. You've been posted in New Delhi in the past, in San Francisco, Detroit, Athens, Raleigh. You've assisted Canadian industry to promote exports, foreign direct investment to Canada. Your recent focus has been on clean technologies, ocean technologies, aquaculture, and wild capture fisheries and agri-food products. So welcome to the Brampton Board of Trade, and please tell us more about World Expo 2020 happening in 2021, I believe starting in October. We look forward to learning more about that. Oh, you're on mute.
Okay, I'm sorry. I knew that was going to happen. I apologize. So thank you very much for inviting us. I'm here on behalf of Akiko Onizuka, who is the chief of our public affairs program at Expo 2020 at the Canadian Consulate General in Dubai, who unfortunately wasn't able to make it this morning. But I want to set the scene just a bit by talking about some of the trade stats, and I won't overwhelm you because I don't have access to slides that I can show you this. But in 2020, the Middle East, North Africa region accounted in terms of bilateral merchandise trade to $13.3 billion bilateral trade with Canada, the 22 countries of MENA. And that was the 8th largest merchandise market in the world. Just some highlights, the exports to the UAE, our #1 export market last year, were almost 1.8 billion, up almost 18% from 2019. Saudi last year was our second most important export market, with about $1.6 billion in exports. Saudi, however, remained our #1 bilateral trade partner for merchandise because of the very significant imports to Canada from Saudi Arabia, almost $1.7 billion in 2020. I wanted to mention just in passing foreign direct investment. We know that it is significant from the Middle East and North Africa. We only have statistics available for several countries in the region. The two most important that we know of are the UAE, which holds $8.3 billion in foreign direct investment stock in Canada. It is the 5th most important country for investing in Canada from the Asia Oceania region. And #2 in that regard is Kuwait, which holds stock of about $2.3 billion. It's ranked 9th for foreign direct investment in Canada by Ultimate Investing Country in the Asia Oceania region, and it's 26th globally. So that kind of will give you the overview. This is an extremely important market with a lot of interactions, both in terms of foreign direct investment, much of which we aren't able to track. The statistics are not available, and also in terms of our bilateral merchandise trade. So this brings me to Expo 2020. And Jennifer, if you could please bring up the first slide. Unfortunately, I can't manipulate them and can't get onto the screen. Thanks very much. So the first slide is just the overview, as you are all aware. Okay, that's the second slide, but let's talk about this now. Oh, okay, there we are. Expo will begin on October 1st, 2021 and runs through March 31st, 2022. It is the first ever World's Fair that is taking place in the Middle East, North Africa, and South Asian region. It is the first major international event apart from the Olympics, which is taking place in the pandemic period. Please go to the next slide. Thank you. That's what we're going to be talking about, the Middle East and South Asia region. So we can go to slide 3, please. The importance of the region, I've highlighted some of the trade stats and the investment stats, but the most important thing about the United Arab Emirates is its crucial position as a hub for imports and exports to the entire region, both South Asia, Middle East, North Africa, and into other parts of Africa as well. We can go to the third slide, please. Expo is going to offer Canada the opportunity to do a number of commercial programs. We'll look at that slide later. It was the one that Jennifer put up first. There will be somewhere between 24 and 26 programs that are organized by the Trade Commissioner Service in a host of sectors, which we will come to in a moment. During the course of the Expo, pardon me. And there will also be trade initiatives that are taking place prior to Expo. And those will include programs that are organized by the Canada Arab Business Council and the 3 Canadian business councils in the UAE. Some of them in cooperation with the Trade Commissioner Service. Others that will be involving, for example, Invest in Canada, which is going to be playing a very important role at Expo both as the host of the Business Lounge, but also doing programming that will be including outreach to individual investors and to the sovereign wealth funds in the region. Next slide, please. And that is a glimpse of the pavilion. It's almost completed. It will be finished, I understand, 100% in early September, almost a month before the opening of Expo 2020. Next slide, please. That's an interior view of the pavilion, including the exhibit areas, the areas where cultural programming will be taking place, the business lounge, which can be used by business associations. It will certainly be used by a number of the missions that will be going over. Some of them organized by the Trade Commissioner Service, likely some as well by provincial government trade and investment agencies. Next slide, please. One of the really key aspects of this is that there will both be, if travel restrictions permit, in-person programming that will be taking place, but also virtual and hybrid programming, and we'll be coming to the list of some of those events in a moment. Next slide. The theme of the Canadian Pavilion is the future in mind. It's going to be highlighting the themes of diversity, innovation, and our future. You can see on the right the list of the many sectors that are going to be focused on by the Trade Commissioner Service and our partner business councils in and during Expo 2020. Next slide. That actually reiterates what I mentioned a moment ago, that there will be in-person virtual events, also media and social media activations. And some of the events, in fact, will be linked to the major trade shows that would normally be taking place in either Dubai or Abu Dhabi, one that I'm aware of that's taking place, for example, in Sharjah. So they will be linked to Expo, but the participation by Canadian companies will be very much standard. Those firms that are interested in that particular sector will have the opportunity to attend. And there may be events that will be taking place at the pavilion in Dubai during Expo that are linked to that. Next slide, please, Jennifer. And that's the wrap-up slide. For information and assistance, one can get in touch with the Toronto Regional Office of the Trade Commissioner Service. You can contact me. We have a Trade Commissioner in our Expo division here in Ottawa. If you're interested in an investment, foreign direct investment opportunities to Canada, to Brampton and Peel, that would involve both Invest in Canada and potentially our Business Investor Services division here in Ottawa at Global Affairs Canada. And the key individual in all of this is Akiko at the Consulate General in Dubai, and she's coordinating all of the trade programming around Expo. Now, if we could just pull up the other slide for a moment. And we can actually provide both of these, the 10-page deck and this list. This just gives you a flavor of the events that are taking place for the entire period from October 2021 through March 2022. Some of the projects that are still underway. One that I'm involved with, and I would just highlight and mention to interested companies from the Brampton Peel area. The Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada has a pavilion every year at Gulf Food, which is going to be taking place in February. I don't have the exact dates in front of me. I do. February 13 to 17, 2022. It will be hopefully in person. AAFC has just begun recruitment for the Canada Pavilion 10 days ago. And firms that are interested in exhibiting to market Canadian food products and commodities now really is the time to sign up, because normally the pavilion fills up quite quickly. If you want information about where to go and how to register and how to sign up for the pavilion, you can contact me. Jennifer has my address, but it's ben.gaylor@international.gc.ca. So I'd be happy to do a few questions. It's almost 9 o'clock.
Great. Thank you, Ben. And let's open the floor for questions. I think I saw Tracy's hand and then Badr's hand. Of interest to those on the call would be in November. I thank you so much for bringing that schedule with you, and we will share that with participants. We'll keep it handy here at the Board of Trade for those that have an interest in the Expo. The end of November, November 25th to 27th, I'm sorry, November 23rd to 25th is the World Chambers Federation Biennial Congress. And it's our intention, given all things being equal and safe COVID-wise, for us to be there. We have taken part in part of a competition on digital transformation, and we may be recognized there. So I know it's not on the agenda there, but we are looking at that time frame for a visit as well. But I'm glad you pointed out food, because that's really important to all of us. You know us well here at the Brampton Board of Trade, and that February 2022 opportunity looks very interesting as well. Tracy, your question first, then Badr.
So thank you very much for the presentation. I started a journey actually at Dubai Design Week. I was there and I spoke as an international speaker in my sector. I create custom fragrances for spaces, and my specialty is the impact. So boutique hotels, airports, interaction. And I did a TED Talk actually in Dubai as part of that Design Week, and I found this was prior to COVID, and then unfortunately we had invested all kinds of time and money, and then COVID hit. So I'm really interested to know if that is the same Design Week and it's just picked up from that period of time. Is it the same structure? Because if it is a virtual, I would really be interested to be able to pick up where we left off, because we did start, and then, as I said, we did do a lot of investments into that sector. And the second question I have is, I noticed November 3rd to the 11th, there is a book fair. I have recently launched a brand new ebook that is called Why the Nose, and it is designed for people who have contracted COVID and have lost their sense of smell, and how to get their sense of smell back. It's a training program that is clinically researched and proven, and it's a nominal fee. It's like $2. It's not about the fee, it's about the awareness of understanding that if you address your sense of smell, you will prevent depression, which is something that the governments and the world medical organizations are looking at, because they know with COVID, that is the next medical problem that will be basically infrastructuring our civilization. So that book fair is something that is new. Could you specifically tell me a little bit about that project or program, please?
Yeah, Tracy, excellent question. I'm interested in learning more about your book. Perhaps we should have a chat offline at some point, because I don't know the answer to either question, neither about the Design Week nor more details about the Sharjah book. I think it's more Sharjah about physical books as opposed to e-books, but we can certainly find out. And I noticed that Akiko is the key contact on the Sharjah International Book Fair.
Okay.
So
I will reach out directly to you, and then I will follow up, because I am looking at putting this into print shortly, but we just launched it literally a week ago. So I'm just I'm trying to understand the different markets, and I will follow up with you. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, congratulations on the book. At some point, one of the things that we can talk about in further, in greater detail, Heritage Canada has an international division and program, and I think that they are also involved in promoting Canadian books internationally. At least they used to in the past, and I think that's still the case, but we'll talk about it.
Okay, thank you. Is your email address, where would I find that?
Yeah, it's Ben, B-E-N dot Gaylor, Gailor, and then at international.gc.ca, the same as the format of all the other addresses on this list of events in 21-22.
Thank you.
And
I'll also be sending an email to everybody with everything we talked about in the decks presented. So I'll put the emails in the chat right now, but I'll also be sending a follow-up email. So if you don't catch it.
Could I mention two other things before we go? Number one, I want to thank the Chamber for your interest and for putting together this morning's webinar. It's been really useful. And the other thing I want to mention is that if you are involved even peripherally in artificial intelligence, the Canada Arab Business Council is doing a 2-day artificial intelligence forum started 5 minutes ago. Actually, it goes on till noon today and again tomorrow. You can look for information by Googling it, but also the annual Canada Arab Business Forum is going to be taking place virtually again this year on September 22nd to 23rd. Registration has already begun, but certainly the AI event, it's not too late to join in, and there are a lot of really fascinating speakers. And we've discovered great opportunities between Canada and the Middle East, North Africa.
Great, thank you, Ben, for that. And yes, the Canada Arab Business Council is a good friend of the Brampton Board of Trade. They assisted greatly in our last visit to UAE. Badr, you were on that visit. You have a question for Mr. Gaylor as well?
Yes, the last trip we took was very informative in terms of us physically seeing the stakeholders, seeing the infrastructure in Dubai. Dubai is quite a transformational story from the small port city used to be back in the 70s. I grew up in Pakistan, and Pakistanis take a lot of pride, Ben, in telling Emiratis that we helped them launch Emirat Airlines along with other airlines. It was literally PIA that leased them jets and provided them the technical expertise to start an airline. And now look at them, and then look at Pakistan. So Pakistan's got some catching up to do as herself.
Sure.
But let me come to my question. Ben, I've lived in Canada ever since my teenage years, and I'm a big believer in the power of stock exchanges and capital markets. Canada's stock exchange is worth about $3,000 billion. $3 trillion, while our economy is worth about $1.9 billion. So, you know, I have personally benefited, and my clients have benefited from our private sector's outlook, where companies like to share their wealth and their prosperity with an average Canadian as they seek growth capital. So I represent a duly registered asset management company called Generation Portfolio Management Corp. We're registered with Ontario Securities Commission. In Pakistan, the counterpart organization would be Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan, and they've got roughly 23 asset management companies there. I had an interesting experience recently trying to build a business relationship in Dubai, and I wanted your input, and I wanted this to be sort of a learning experience for everybody else on this call, because this could happen. I was invited to attend the Israel Investment Summit, which was also the celebration of Abrahamic Accords. It was hosted at the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, and I decided to attend it because I wanted to take on the opportunity to meet my asset management counterparts in Israel, as well as from those from UAE who were going to be present at the event. And I did meet a family office from Dubai, who's run by one of the Dubai princes from the royal family of Dubai. So we ended up actually communicating a little bit via LinkedIn. I requested a virtual meeting to get to know their priorities from an asset management perspective in terms of where they're allocating their funds, so that maybe we can show them what we're doing in Canada and what opportunities we're seeing here in Canada. Well, the first response I got, Ben, and that blew my mind away, they wanted me to pay them a $40,000 deposit just to talk to them. They basically said, we're very interested in showcasing investment opportunities in UAE to legitimate investors. Keep in mind, we're a duly registered asset management company with Ontario Securities Commission. But in order for us to, validate the seriousness of the parties, we would like a deposit of $40,000 as a gesture of respect to the Crown Prince or whoever the gentleman is. Now, mind you, me being a typical Canadian trained professional hasn't responded in 3 weeks to that comment. I'm just going to let him chill. Where I'm going with that conversation is, I'm used to picking up a phone and talking to the senior management teams from TD Asset Management, Royal Bank Asset Management, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan Chase, whoever I want to talk to. And similarly, when it comes to corporate due diligence, I can pick up the phone and talk to any company that we're seriously looking at from an investment standpoint. Is it a norm for large family-owned offices in UAE to seek $40,000 deposits just to have a conversation?
I've never heard of it, but the best bet is if you could please send me the name in confidence. I'll share it with my colleagues in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and they might be able to provide you some background on the fund, on the family office. But I think that you're wise ignoring the invitation, to be frank. I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, and equally importantly, and I was surprised because, quite frankly, I don't know why the Israelis, why the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange would invite these people to their meetings if that's their candor. But I would also then seek your support and assistance in meeting duly registered asset management firms in Dubai. We're very keen on actually building mutually respectful, mutually beneficial relationships, but it's just not our modus operandi to say, yeah, here's $40,000 just to talk to you.
Yeah,
we're happy to put our capital. We're happy to put our capital at risk in a project, in a co-investment opportunity with a serious investor. Azhar Saab, you mentioned mining being a big sector in Balochistan. Our firm has privately owned mining operations here in Canada. We would love to show our mining operations to investors in Pakistan, duly registered asset management companies who might want to invest with us here in Canada. And similarly, we're happy to actually take a look at mining operations where Pakistani asset managers like Arif Habib or JS or UBL or anybody else is investing money. So this is how asset management sector operates. We work in tandem in partnership with each other. And quite frankly, Canadian money management firms are quite used to looking at emerging markets. My experience in emerging markets actually stems from me working closely with Sun Life when they first signed an agreement with Aditya Birla of India to offer Indian investment opportunities to Canadian investors through the Sun Life Aditya Birla joint venture back in 2000. So looking at emerging markets is not new to us, but we simply like to work within, a registered framework with the duly registered stakeholders.
Yeah, surely. The businesses on both sides can benefit from connecting with each other and opportunities in each country, right?
Good show. Yeah, so Ben, I'll send you an email. I'll provide you the name of the party. And at the same time, going forward, if you can be of any assistance in terms of us talking to more regular folks, then that would be duly appreciated.
With pleasure. It's often best to work closely with our consulates and with our embassies. The desk and office in Ottawa has more of a coordinating role, but we are certainly involved in trade issues, and the post will in all likelihood be able to provide you some background on the bona fides of the family office. We'll look into it. We'll
awesome.
see.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Gaylor or Consul General Hamid or Mr. Hussein? we didn't address Qatar 2020, the World Cup and the Brazuca soccer balls. Well, that'll be for our next conversation. But I do want to say thank you to Consul General Hamid for the delivery of some delicious mangoes earlier this summer. Pakistan mangoes are so fresh. You eat them raw, you put them on ice cream, you put them on breakfast cereal. It's thank you so much for that delivery. Pakistan mangoes, they are the best.
We know how to get to the heart of the chambers.
Yes,
Through their stomachs.
I don't need $40,000. Just mangoes. Beautiful. Beautiful.
That's great. That's great.
I want to close our session today with a discussion about future meetings and guests that we may want to invite. But before I do that, I want to make sure that your calendars have some important September dates in them. September is next week. Next Thursday, the 2nd, so we have a very important meeting with the President of the Treasury Board of Ontario, the person that sets the financial allocation structure for Ontario, and that is our own local MPP, Brampton South, Mr. Prabmeet Sakaria. So we will be talking to him about a lot of important investment issues for Ontario. I hope you can make it. That is at 11:30 on Thursday the 2nd, and that information is at bramptonbot.com. You may have heard that our Prime Minister has called an election. And that is on the 20th of September. And we, in our role as Brampton Board of Trade, want to ensure that business issues are ballot issues. So we're holding our 2021 version of BizVote 2021, our debates happening all day on September 9th. That's in 2 weeks. And you don't have to view all day, but you can see the schedule on our website and view the riding. There are 5 ridings in Brampton. View the riding. We'll hear from the representatives that currently hold a seat in the House of Commons, Liberal, Conservative, Green, and NDP. And that is on the 9th, various times throughout that day. On the 13th, Heather, Tracy, Badr, Paresh, Alicia, we have an invitation. We've arranged for an invitation for business people to have a focus group on Brampton's official plan. So issues like getting around town, childcare, investments in transit and transportation, all of the important things. If you can make it to that, it's a Monday morning, 8 till 10. So it's a convenient time. That is on the 13th of September. Jennifer has also been doing an amazing job on one of our very important signature events. You may know that Brampton has the youngest workforce in Canada, and we like to recognize those individuals under 40 years old with our top 40 under 40. The deadline for nomination has been extended to the end of September. So I know that you know people in your organizations that may fit, or customers, etc. We're going to hold that event November 30th once we come back from UAE. So I just wanted to let you know that it is a very busy September. Business members on this call, Tracy, Heather, Paresh, and Badr, will have received 2 surveys recently as well. One that's due on Sunday. It's about the federal election, the key issues we want to represent, what is important to you. The second one is our annual business confidence survey, and I hope that you can complete that by the 19th of September. Very, very important to get your perspective directly. Okay, we will finish off our session today. Heather, go ahead.
Sorry, are we also talking about the Innovation Summit on the 21st?
Thank you. Yes, of course. Deloitte is a major sponsor of our Innovation Corridor Summit. It is a virtual summit. It is happening from 7:30 to 5 p.m. on September 21st. So that is Tuesday, it's the day after the election. We're featuring a keynote presentation from Terry Stewart, who is the Chief Information Officer for Deloitte, and is talking about something, well, how do we manage disruption? That's the theme of our Innovation Summit, disruption, optimizing tech, talent, interface, and integration. He's going to be talking about principle-centered leadership and how that is a tool that can manage all of the disruption that we're seeing. Rola Dagger, who is the Chief Channel Officer, the Global Channel Chief for Dell Technologies, will be talking about technology equalizer and how small and large companies are managing technology to get through the disruption, but also to level the competitive playing field. Of course, there's lots of disruptions happening in supply chain right now, and she has her finger on the pulse of that. Great panels on cybersecurity, on electrification, electric cars, electric vehicles, as well as empowering connected workers, how technology such as AI and robotics is merging with humans side by side in logistics, in healthcare, in many other sectors. It's going to be an amazing session. BramptonBOT.com, you'll find out more, or corridorsummit.ca. We already have 200 tickets allocated. We hope to have about 400 individuals on this virtual event. You'll learn lots. There will be Brampton businesses that will be a couple of startups that will be pitching their companies. We will have the winner of a hackathon that's happening the week before. The first 275 registrants get an amazing book called The Awesome Music Project, authored by Terry Stewart, and talks about the healing power of music. There's songs in it. It's a great digital book. So you can use the Brampton Board of Trade code, promo code BBOT99, and you can get a $175 ticket for $99. So I hope that you will attend. And thank you for mentioning that, Heather. I had so many things that Jennifer has prepared for me. I forgot to mention that one, but it is going to be amazing.
Yeah, no, it's great. And it's interesting. I often think of, when I hear innovation, you often think tech, right? And so tech companies and stuff, but tech these days funnels through every industry, everything that we do. So this summit, quite frankly, is applicable to absolutely everybody, big, small, medium, every industry, doesn't matter. And interesting, Tracy, when I was thinking about your the kind of the fix for the loss of smell and that sort of thing, the Awesome Music Project is a very similar kind of take on music as healing, and you've got sense as healing. So there's a really interesting play there. We probably should talk about, but just as I was thinking about that. But thanks, Todd. That was a great overview and great summary.
Great, super.
Yeah.
Okay, we're always interested in your points of view. Any thoughts that you might have about topics or speakers for future Trade Network events would be great. Our next Trade Network is October 22nd. I see we've got just a few minutes left. Any suggestions that you might have, please bring them forward now, or send us, Jen or myself, an email, and we'll be happy to set that up.
We have a new consul general from US in Toronto.
Yes, her name escapes me right now.
Tracy something.
Yes.
Maybe we should invite her.
Thank you. That's a very good suggestion.
I am traveling to Los Angeles for the Los Angeles for their annual Economic Development Summit in October. Mm-hmm. So I do intend to focus a little bit more on California. Hamid Saab, California was home away from home for me when I was in high school and university. All of my mom's side of the family, they all live in Southern California. So down the road, we got to connect California and Pakistan as well.
Sure.
But yeah, the U.S. Consul General would be a great addition.
Okay, that's a good idea.
And regarding, sorry, please go ahead.
Sorry. I was just thinking, because I'm seeing this in a few industries, but an interesting topic right now for trade networks would be freight. The freight costs have absolutely skyrocketed, international as well as local. So just curious if we're seeing any kind of help there, fixes, how people are dealing with it. If there's some insights to share there, that might be of interest to the members as well. I'm not sure what they're running into directly, but I've seen clients running into that.
Heather, thank you for bringing that forward. Each week I have a conversation with the manufacturer or others in logistics or even restaurants about supply chain costs. Local manufacturers are seeing container costs go from $4,000 to $27,000 to get product from Asia. That sometimes that exceeds the value of the product that's inside the can. I had a mango shake. I ordered a mango shake at a local restaurateur. I do like mangoes, yes. And I had a conversation with the proprietor of Freshly Thai, a Thai food restaurant, and she was talking to me about how particular they are about their curry and how their curry uses coconut milk. And 5 years ago, 3 liters of coconut milk she would get for $16.99. And this month it was $90. So there's some real mismatch in supply and demand, cost, etc., in freight, and that's an excellent suggestion. I do not know what the solution is. So I have talked to CN and others. I asked, how long do we think this nightmare will last? And they said it might take 2 years.
Wow.
It might take 2 years to rebalance. So this is a very topical conversation, and we'll look into that as well. Yes.
Thank you.
Just regarding, sorry. Please,
No, our exporters have also been conveying the same information, particularly on containers. Container price has been increased manifold, and particularly they are hopeful when this trade is restored to pre-COVID pattern. Perhaps then it would be easy. For example, in case of Pakistan, containers coming from Pakistan to North America, but because these are not going back from North America to South Asia, therefore they can't send the next batch. So when again exports from North America to South Asia or Asia are restored at the pre-COVID level, perhaps then containers will be available more. At least one exporter theorized in this manner during a conversation with me.
Yeah. It's interesting because I have a client that actually exports to other countries around the world. I do think they export, maybe not directly to Pakistan. I'm trying to think about that. But in terms of the opposite direction, to your point, if it's coming from Pakistan, can we match up enough companies to then do the return load?
Exactly.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah, regarding what Todd was saying and regarding the mangoes, I was just saying regarding the same thing that because of the COVID and related issues, we could not have a mango tasting event in the consulate. Otherwise, we would have had planned that in the summer. So hopefully, in the next summer, we will be having this mango, that mango shakes and the ice creams and the desserts. Hopefully, we'll be having that next summer.
I'm getting hungry now.
There is hope. There is hope in the world. Thank you.
So you know how, Todd, you know how when you're networking with the Brits, they all want to meet at a pub over a pint. When you're doing networking with Pakistani, all the business deals are done over a meal. You'll gain 50 pounds in one trip to Pakistan.
Oh, man.
Wonderful. Any other questions for our guests today? Well, thank you all again for your insight. Thank you for your suggestions for the future. And I've learned a lot about Pakistan opportunities, housing, mining, and a lot more about involvement with the World Expo 2020.